Okay, so we went through the brief overview. If you watched that video, if you didn't watch that video, go watch that video. It'll be cool. I don't know why I'm talking so fast. All right, let's answer this question. So when we talk about technologies versus tools, what is the difference between a tool and technology, and why does it matter? Well, they can while sometimes when I discuss this, people get confused. My students get confused, they maybe try too hard to make it an either or situation. I will go through this a little faster than I do in class. I've taken an entire class session, an hour long, just to cover tool versus technology, because I think it's a cool analytical lens to think about how something's actually functioning, to make us more aware of how we're engaging with something, or when it counts as one, or when it's fulfilling the role of one or another. But it does often confuse people. So just know, in some cases, people will use tool and technology interchangeably for better or worse. But I do want to give us lenses to think about how something's being used when it comes to these two terms, just to use these pieces of language to provide alternate analytical lenses, especially since a lot of my classes will deal with some sort of analysis of a writing technology. It can be a helpful lens to think about when is something being used as a tool, and when is it being used as a technology. All right, so think in your mind for just take a couple seconds. What's the difference in your mind between a tool and technology? Okay, so I think I've got two definitions that I build on here. One's from Merriam-Webster and one's from I think freedictionary.com. But a tool is often defined as a device or implement, especially when held in the hand and used to carry out a particular function. My version of this is it's the means at hand used to accomplish a necessary task. So a tool it's just what you do to get it done. It's functional. It's the means at hand to accomplish the task. A technology, however, a technology is the result of some sort of process of scientific or manufacturing inquiry or invention, some sort of steady development where we're developing a specific tool for a specific purpose, or a specific tool is being pushed beyond its current stage to a new level so that it is even better at the job it's doing. So a tool is the means at hand used to accomplish a necessary task. A technology is the result of some sort of process of inquiry, invention, or some sort of scientific method used to make something better at a specific task. So when we talk about this, we can think of a variety of examples. It's fun to think about the number 2 pencil, not a mechanical pencil. Those aren't necessarily the same thing. But if you're thinking like a traditional number 2 pencil, a wood pencil that you had to do the little cranky thing, sharpener in the back of the classroom, or a whittling pocket knife, something like that. Depends on it. Yeah. So when we talk about the number 2 pencil, the number 2 actually refers to the lead. There's some fun history behind it. From I forgot his name, Walden man, not Ralph Waldo Emerson, the other guy. Cheese and crackers. I should know this. Anyways, gonna ruin this video if I mess it up. So we're just gonna move on. So the idea, though, is that it was developed a couple hundred years ago, and we essentially discovered that by heating the carbon, it would that it would harden, and so then we have different pencil lids. There are fun videos on YouTube, so go enjoy it. PBS, Sesame Street, they have things on this. It's always cool to do that. So let me refer you to a 3rd grade resource. No, I'm kidding. But when we talk about tools and technologies, if we use the wooden number 2 pencil that's been sharpened, somebody randomly walks by and they see this number 2 pencil lying on the ground. They go, I'm going to pick this up. It looks cool. It's bright and yellow. Maybe it'll come in handy. I've never seen a pencil. I don't know what this thing is. I don't even know it's called a pencil. So then they're walking around. Suddenly they get attacked by a bear, and they use the pencil as a means at hand to defend themselves. That is not being used as a technology in the sense that it was developed for fending off bears. You're trying to, whether that's feinting at the bear with your little stabby device or your shiv, that is a tool, a means at hand to accomplish a task. Please don't eat me, Mr. Bear. Versus a technology where it's like, here, let me write you a Valentine, Mr. Grizzly. Those things are, or Mrs. Grizzly. Sorry for gendering. Bottom line is, if it's not being used for the based on the process, or if it's not being used based on its original purpose that it was designed for, it may be used as a means at hand, but is not being used as as the result of a process of scientific inquiry. So if you use a pencil as a shiv, it's not designed for that. It's designed to write. The pen is more powerful than the sword, as some people have said, but sometimes you need a sword. Sorry. Moving on. So I'm going to get in all kinds of trouble. You're going to comment in the bottom and be like, this guy's nuts. Anyways, so if we think about that, we can use the tool lens or the technology lens to figure out what counts as a tool, what counts as a technology, when is this pencil being used as a tool to accomplish a task, or when is it being adapted for a new process or for a new task that it wasn't necessarily designed for, or when is it being used as a technology? It's designed for this. Further developments of that technology might be the mechanical pencil, might just mean that we added the little squishy thing on that can slip over the end, might be that we added the eraser. Those are each design adjustments. So if you're in engineering, you should enjoy this. But when we talk about this technology, we're talking about adjusting the design to make it more capable of doing what it's supposed to do. So hopefully that is a fun way of thinking about tools and technologies. I'll use one other example, but remember, all of this is to help us understand how this applies when it comes to writing, but writing tools, writing technologies, that's why I'm using a number 2 pencil, but just to help us get it a little more, it might help to think of it like this. If we are trying to build a fence and we have nails, somehow we manage to develop nails, but we don't have a hammer. And so we've got these metal sticks, metal pokey things that we're trying to hammer, that we're trying to get to use to connect two pieces of wood together. We look around and we realize, oh, my hand's not working. It's actually getting all bloody as I try and push this nail into this piece of wood. Ow. But if I hit it with my knuckle, that works a little bit better. Well, what hurts my knuckle? Oh, there was that one time I cracked my hand on a rock and that hurt really bad. Oh, look, there's a rock right there. It's kind of rounded. Let's see if this works. And so then we use the rock as a means at hand, a tool to accomplish the task of essentially hammering the nail into the fence post. That rock is a tool in that moment. Now, the second we look at that rock and we chop it in half and say, I'm going to cut this in half and use the flat end because I'm tired of the rounded edge of the rock spinning and hitting my knuckles. That becomes a technology. We have now put it through a process to make it better at what it's supposed to do. Cool. And so then we've got this flat-headed stone that we're using to hammer something in. Then we take the next step. We jam a rock into the side of a tree, the same way that some cultures in the past have used techniques like that to make axes and that sort of thing. And so we jam it in the side of a tree, and now it's got a handle already grown over. We come back 3 years later, the bark has grown over, the tree has grown over, and now it's got this nice piece of wood. And so we kind of cut it out of the tree, and then now we've got a flat-headed rock on a stick. And so we use that to hammer, and so we get better leverage and whatever. Each of those steps makes that a technology. It is being honed and crafted and designed through a process of manufacture, through a process of invention and development to make it better at what it's supposed to do. Okay, so and then we get to modern day where we don't just have a hammer. We realized we could make things out of metal for that, but we've got like 20 hammers. There's a ball peen hammer. There's a framing hammer. There's a roofing hammer. There's a sledgehammer. All of these different types of things. Cool. So that's tools and technologies. I find it really helpful to think through, to understand the difference, to know that the same thing can be both depending on how you're using it. And it also, so this blend or these analytical lenses can help us better understand how we interact with And so it gets interact with those tools or technologies to produce a text. So it gets a little bit at what we're going to talk about in another video, user interface or user experience and that sort of thing. So hopefully that was helpful to wrap your head around tools and technologies. Start thinking about how this applies when you go to pick up your pencil, when you use a mechanical pencil, when you use a pen, when you're typing. What are you using the apps that you have for? How are you using them? I just heard I was just listening to something about an author who hadn't heard. It was a couple decades ago, and he hadn't heard of word processors yet. He didn't know what they were, but he had this computer program that had a little notes section for commenting as you read through a text. It was very early 90s, late 80s, I believe. And so it had this little box that was part of it. And so he essentially wrote a full book, kind of self-help book in this little corner note box, comment box, part of this program, because he didn't have anything else that he could type up a book in. And so that's kind of cool. But that's him using something that wasn't designed to write a book as a tool to accomplish a task. He was being innovative. He was being ingenuitive. He was trying to take what he had to accomplish the goal. So based on his rhetorical intention, he crafted the tool, or he worked with the tool to figure out how to make it do what he needed it to do. That's usually a really nice kind of invention place to start. And creative place to start when it comes to changing the way writers write in the long term. First we try and figure it out the hard way, and then we find a better way to do it. So again, tools and technologies that can make for fun lenses. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and I apologize for those moments where it was just like, what?